Well, hey, everybody, welcome to the Seeing Ability podcast, where we're having a conversation about people with disabilities. And that means we're going to be talking with adults who grew up as that kid with a disability, with parents who are raising children with disabilities, and the folks who support them. That might mean people in healthcare, it might mean people in education, and folks working in a variety of nonprofits that serve this community. I'm your host, Jim Littlefield-Dalmaris, and first I want to say thanks for listening today. I know you have a lot of choices when it comes to podcasts. We appreciate you tuning in today. We know that it's hard to listen to podcasts sometimes when you're really busy, so we're going to try to keep our episodes tight and brief. As always, it's tough because we have such great guests, and I'm joined today by Kristin Knable. Kristin, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Jim. Nice to be here.
Well, we always jump in, even though we're talking about the world of people with disabilities, we're all just people. So my listeners know I like to start with the fast four. So I'm going to jump right in, Kristin. Number one on the fast four, what's your favorite junk food?
I think it's going to be salt and pepper kettle cooked chips.
Okay, salt and pepper kettle cooked chips. I love it. All right, what about a favorite streaming show?
Big Brother.
Okay. If we were to look at your playlist, what is a song we would find?
I Want It That Way by Backstreet Boys.
Oh, you didn't even hesitate on that one. I love it. And if you were to be whisked away to a favorite vacation destination, where would it be?
Anywhere in the Caribbean.
Anywhere in the Caribbean. Okay. Well, welcome to the podcast. We go back many years from my days at the Kids Center. And I know being an adult with spina bifida, sometimes we have a lot of people on the podcast who are facing all kinds of different challenges. And I don't take for granted that everybody out there, they might know the word spina bifida, but they don't exactly know what it means. You're probably used to explaining it to people by now, I would imagine. So give us the quick, what is spina bifida and how did it really impact you as a young person and a young adult growing up?
Spina bifida is basically a physical disability that causes the person to have differing levels of paralysis. It can range all the way from not being able to walk like me, I'm in a wheelchair, all the way down to just your toes not having feeling. Some people are able to walk completely, but it affects other parts of your body, physical, medical, different things like that. Mm-hmm. But mostly the outer side of it is a lot of people can't walk.
Okay. And so when you were growing up, that was your biggest probably obstacle, is being in the chair?
Yes, definitely.
So you and I had a chance a while back, but with the research I'm doing for the book I'm working on, to talk, and we had a fascinating conversation about this balance that parents face, or this kind of challenge between stepping in and helping their kids and like wanting to support them and letting them kind of learn things on their own, and that the level of independence. I know that's a big topic for you. One of the things you shared was an experience being a camp counselor and kind of seeing that play out with some of the kids that you worked with and seeing how they interacted with their parents. Share that story that you told me and your thoughts about that topic.
Sure. So I was a camp counselor at a summer camp here in Kentucky back when I was in college. And I had one camper that we basically, as the counselors, we were each paired up with a specific child. For the entire week, we went everywhere with them. We stayed in the same cabin with them, and we're basically their mentor for the whole week. And it was a big theme, a lot like your podcast, but a big theme of this camp was learning independence and growing up and being independent outside of relying on your family and friends and things. And so I was paired up with this girl who really, I could just tell she had that sparkle in her eye that she wanted to be independent and, do things on her own. And just like any other kid wants to do. But her parents, I just could tell when I went to pick her up, when I went to meet her, that her parents just kind of were hesitant and still kind of wanted to be doing all the things for her. And they pushed her everywhere she went until they left, basically, and just did a lot of things for her. And so I had a conversation with her after they left and was like, so what are your goals for this week? I know camp, you want to have fun and whatnot, but do you have any, personal goals? And one of her personal goals was she wants to learn to be a little bit more independent and not have to rely on her parents so much. And so I was like, okay, perfect. I can help you with that, because being someone with a disability, not any of the other counselors actually had a disability at camp that summer. And so it was really cool to be able to connect with her in that way. And I was actually able to show her some things and show her how to open the cafeteria door all by herself. And she watched me do it for the first time the first day. And then she slowly got the courage to open the door for the first time by the end of the week. And it was just really cool to be able to see her growth and drive to be independent by the end of the week. It was a really cool experience.
What was it like when you saw her? What was her reaction when she realized she could do more than she was doing prior to getting there?
Like I said, she was kind of shy in the beginning, and then she gradually, just like, you could just tell, you kind of got that sparkle in your eye, and like just gained more confidence throughout the week, and just joy and just love for life. And just, she's was so happy and excited by the end of the week. She ran to her mom and dad at the end of the week and was like, Mom, look, I can't wait to tell you everything I did.
Wow, that's awesome. And of course, what was that like for you?
And all the things I learned.
What was that like for you being her mentor?
It was definitely a eye-opening and exciting experience, because I really wasn't expecting to get too much out of it. For me, being the counselor, it was because we were always told it's about the kids, but
right.
In turn I got the feeling of fulfillment and excitement to see that I was able to I guess rub off on and make a difference for a kid.
Now, you told me also, fast forward to like in your adulthood, that you still had journeys where you were learning independence and doing things on your own. And you said you had a really story I remember where you kind of had to figure out the hard way what it means to do stuff on your own. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So there was a time when I was living up in Cleveland, actually. And I was dating this guy who lived about 45 minutes away from me at the time. And we had just, I'd went and picked him up and we went to dinner. And then I went and dropped him off at the end of the night and then drove home. And then realized when I pulled into my parking lot at my condo that we had forgotten to move my chair from the trunk of my car to the passenger seat so that I could get out of the car.
Aha.
So then I was stuck.
Small detail.
But, yeah, small detail. Person in a chair can't really get up and walk to the back of the car to get the chair out of the car.
So what did you do?
I ended up actually, and this is kind of a funny story. So I ended up sitting in my car for a little while, just like contemplating, okay, what am I going to do? I don't have anybody's, because at this point I didn't have anybody's phone number that lived in my building yet, because it was shortly after I'd moved there. And so I was just like, okay, what am I going to do? So I sat there waiting for a little while to see if like a car would drive by that I could like wave. But it was one of those parking garages where there's like poles kind of in between a lot of the parking spots. So like even if I peeked my head out of the car, if a car's driving by, they're not driving by slow.
Right.
So they're not going to see me poking my head out waving as they're driving by. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to have to figure out how to get to the back of my car and get my chair out myself. So I crawled out of my car onto the floor of the parking garage and went to the back of the car and opened my trunk and pulled my chair out that way.
Wow. And that was something obviously you didn't think was possible prior to that or necessary.
No, I was panicking the entire time. I called my boyfriend crying and was so upset. Like, what the heck did we do? I'm going to be spending the night in my car. And then I
Tell about it.
And was like, okay, there's got to be a way out of this. Like, if you have to, you'll just have to get out of the car. And that's what I ended up having to do because I was not going to spend the night in the car.
So that's an extreme story of learning self-dependence, right?
Yes. You got to figure it out one way or the other, especially when you're 6 hours away from family.
So thinking about kids growing up, teenagers especially, you think of your teenage years, you also shared a story of like the fact that you were blessed with a great community, great parents, real positive attitude, feeling loved for who you were, totally like any parent would. But you also shared that like your environment, you almost had to check your parents, if you will, and say, it's such a positive environment, but sometimes it sucks. And sometimes it's hard. And sometimes I have bad days and I have to have kind of space to be able to have those emotions. Tell me a little bit about that, especially for parents listening who kind of want to be that cheerleader, want to be that supportive force for their kids.
Yeah. So like you said, I grew up with a very, very supportive family, extended family as well, and supportive friends that always were very supportive and wanted me to be the most independent person ever, and had all these aspiring goals of, living on my own and being married one day and having kids and all that fun stuff. And so they were always pushing me to be my best self and being an independent, do it for yourself. Don't ever ask for help because you can do it. You can figure out a way. And I struggled with that quite a bit because I knew I could do it. I knew I could be independent and live on my own and whatnot. But there were days where growing up where I was at my lowest, and I still struggle with it. I'm still in therapy for, anxiety and depression, and a lot of it stems from that feeling of having to always be positive and always be the outgoing, independent woman that you're supposed to be, that I was told that I was supposed to be growing up. And so I've had to learn that it's okay to have days where you just want to say it sucks.
Right.
Not being able to, live the quote unquote normal, which is there really a normal life out there? No, but quote unquote normal life, and just be okay in those in those feelings of sadness and, mourning what's not going to happen. And
I think it's a big theme in mental health today, the idea that it's okay to not be okay, right?
Right.
And I think what I hear you saying is maybe create the space for your kids. Sometimes if they have those challenges, before you step up and give them the pep talk, you might want to just create the space that validates what it must be like to feel that way.
Yeah, and give them the space to say I'm not okay today. Like, I'm not feeling my peppy 100% Kristin that I typically am, and allow your kid to feel those emotions and excuse me, to grow through those, because they will become an even more independent, happy person growing up when they get older, if they know how to manage those situations and manage those feelings and things when they're younger.
Yeah, that's a really good feedback, because I think, the natural instinct is like positivity, support, but it can be so much that it almost doesn't validate those feelings. So I appreciate you sharing that so much. When we talk about young people growing up, obviously there's a lot of times where kids with disabilities end up feeling different and maybe somewhat isolated, maybe lonely. And I think one of the things we talk with parents about is letting them explore different activities so they can kind of find their home, find their passion, find what they love, find their community. Talk to me about the importance of that. And then for you, where was it that you found that community and found that love for you growing up?
I definitely can connect with that and have experienced that. Growing up, my parents were very good about letting me just try a whole bunch of stuff and a bunch of different activities. Like, I tried basketball one year, and I tried rowing, and just a bunch of different things. And the one thing that I did try and fell in love with and haven't stopped since is dance. I have been dancing and started dancing when I was 7 and have continued, and now I'm teaching at the studio I uh, started dancing with when I was 7. So I love it.
Yeah. So how old were you? So when you first discovered dance, what was it like for you individually? And then what was the community that you found as a result of that?
So dance, when I first started, I was really, really scared. Actually, I actually didn't want to go my first night, and my mom actually had to, give me a little nudge of like, okay, you can do this. Like, you've tried all these other things, and you can try this too, and maybe this will be the thing that you like. And once I went in there, I locked eyes with the little girl that would become my best friend, and fell in love and have not stopped dancing ever since. It's become my passion. It's become what I want to do for the rest of my life. And I wouldn't change it for the world for my mother making me go into dance for that first week, because it's what I want to do for the rest of my life. So
That's fantastic. Speaking of your parents, we talked a little bit before about that lesson learned of creating space. But looking back, obviously, they did a lot of things right. What do you think are a couple of things that you saw that your parents did in a positive way that helped you become the person you are today?
I'd say a lot of little things, but the biggest thing that really pushed me to overcome that final step of being independent was helping me decide to go to college away from where I'm from. I graduated from Murray State. And when I was in high school, I had always said I wanted to go to U of L. I went to Manual High School, and so I grew up and went to high school right across the street from U of L. I was like, it's right there. I'm just gonna go right over there. I already know all of the, you know, where everything is down there and everything, and And then my mom and dad and I had a conversation, was like, no, we think you should go a little bit further away and give yourself some space and time to become who you're going to be. And after that conversation, I ended up touring Murray and experiencing campus, and fell in love with that. And it really, that time away really built me into the adult Kristin that I am today.
Yeah, because I'm sure growing up, it sounds like you wanted to, and your parents really encouraged independence, but they were always kind of a call away and very close, being in the same city as you. But when you went to a college, for any kid, there's that separation of being on your own and having to figure things out. But for a person with a physical disability that just has those logistical challenges, your safety net was removed. They're several hours away. What was that like at first for you? And what about for them?
It was scary. I definitely had to learn the I don't know what the word is that I'm looking for, but I had to learn to that I didn't have to call my parents every time my group of friends wanted to go on a weekend trip somewhere, or to get permission, or I had to learn how to pump my own gas, and just how to live on my own. And because they weren't right down the street or in my backyard, like I grew up. So it was a big challenge, but they kind of threw me to the deep end and was like, we've taught you all these years, all these independent, being independent tools and things. So use them and figure it out. We're here. You really need us, but
how did they do? Did they
an adult, so.
Did they struggle a little bit, or did they just cut the cord then when you went away?
I'd say, I will backtrack a little bit. It did take them a little bit for them to really, they were a little bit of talk and not a lot of action in the beginning. Where, they wanted to come down and on the weekends and make sure all my laundry was done and all this fun stuff. And I was like, Mom, Dad, I got this. let me do my thing. So it was a little bit of in the first few months of college, a learning curve on my end, how to not rely on them so much, but them on their end too, of not checking in on me all the time, and wanting to drive 4 hours to make sure that I'm eating dinner and doing my homework and what.
Oh my gosh, that's great. Well, they're great stories. So back to dance, because I know that's your love. Some of our listeners, not being from Louisville, don't really know as much about like Miracle Dancers and the Crusade for Children. Talk a little bit about, for those who don't know what that program is, and what you've seen it mean to so many of the participants like you growing up.
Yeah, so the Miracle Dancers is a nonprofit group of dancers, performing arts group that has children and adults with all ranging types of disabilities. We have kids in chairs, we have adults with Down syndrome, CP, autism, pretty much any disability that you can think of. We have at least one, or we've had at least one. Like, right. We had one, she doesn't dance with us anymore, but we had a girl that was blind in the group at one point. And so we have a wide variety of different disabilities, children and adults with disabilities in the group. But they're each partnered with a able-bodied, we call them helpers. But they're basically just another able-bodied dancer that kind of helps them get to where they need to be on stage when they need to be there, and help them make sure that they know the dance steps and can learn the dance steps throughout the year. And so the group is the nonprofit is the business side of things, helping to raise money to so that the kids and adults can learn to dance and have that opportunity. And like I had said before, I was actually a student within this group back when I was little, and grew up and danced with them all the way through high school, and saw the impact that it made on my life. I gained so much self-esteem and confidence, and I found my passion with this group. And that's one of the big things that I love about being able to be a teacher and a mentor for the kids in the group now.
Yeah.
Is to show them and give them that confidence and self-esteem that I gained as a kid in the group. So
what's it like being a teacher? Can you think of a story of like, what's it like when you see the kids sort of get it and sort of light up and see their changes that they get from being a part of it? What's it like being on the other side, watching that, being a part of it?
Yeah, so this year is a perfect example. I was in charge of choreographing and teaching one of the senior level. We have all the group. We have so many dancers. We have to split them up into smaller groups because our studio is not big enough to be able to hold all 45 to 50 dancers in one room at one time. So for the different styles of dance, for them to learn and get a wide range of styles of dance, we split them up into smaller groups. And so one of the dances that I taught this past year was one of the senior level jazz dances. And one of the dancers had actually just moved up from the lower level junior group to the senior group. And just to watch her level increase, and the level of confidence, and because she was one of those really, really shy girls when she first got in my class, and throughout the year I was kind of able to little bit by little bit bring her out of her shell. And she was the shining star of that choreographed dance this year. And she actually picked her own final pose at the end of the year. She was like, "Miss Chrissy, can I do this for my final pose?" And I'm like, yeah. Because all the other, I typically, choose what each kid does throughout the whole thing, and where they go and whatnot. And so to watch her go from not saying a word at the beginning of the year, and just watching the growth and the independence within her and confidence within herself, to come up to me at the end of the year and be like, "I know what I want to do for my final pose. Can I pick my final pose?" And I'm like, "Sure." It was great to watch her just shine on stage at the end of the year dancing, and just knowing that she grew that much was phenomenal. It was definitely one of the happiest teacher moments of the year, I think.
What a full circle moment too, right? Absolutely.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of an amazing story. So it sounds like this is I know you said you have a day job with a healthcare organization. This is kind of a side hustle, but I don't know, hearing your passion, sounds like if you could just wave your magic wand, this would be your full hustle, wouldn't it?
Definitely. If I could wave the magic wand and be able to quit my day job and just run the nonprofit and teach dance for the rest of my life, that would be my dream. I would be living on cloud nine.
Well, the first step to making dreams happen is to put them out there, right? So there we go. We just said it there into the universe. I love it. So when I wrap up episodes, and again, I feel like we could talk forever, but I did make a promise to keep us on time. I typically ask folks, if you were asked to be in front of an audience of young parents raising kids with disabilities, and you had to say, what are 3 keys to success that are going to help you help your child thrive? What would your 3 keys be?
I think my 3 key things of advice would be love your child as who they are. Yes, you want them to be that independent, little boy or little girl that grows up to be a striving part of the society. But in those early years, allow them to not always have to be that bubbly, happy-go-lucky self. Because speaking from experience, I dealt with a lot of those sad moments growing up that has kind of impacted me as an adult. So just allowing or teaching your child to be independent, but allowing them to have those moments of it sucks moments, because I wish I could have had those moments growing up.
That's fabulous. Well, it is so great to chat with you today. I know our listeners are enjoying it. I wish we had more time. If you've enjoyed this episode, we're kind of a newer podcast, so we're asking help. We're asking your help to share this episode with folks you know. If you haven't done so, go to our Facebook page, like the page, become a follower. Share this with parents groups, other groups that you know. And don't forget, we started a feature recently called Touchdown Tuesday. So every Tuesday on the Facebook page, there's a post, and the goal is for you to leave a comment on that post where you get to brag. Sometimes kids with special needs aren't the ones in the spotlight that get all the attention. So we want you to brag on accomplishments, big and small, that your kids have done. And it could be something that maybe to the outside world is tiny, but to you, it's like a minor miracle. We want you to be able to do that bragging there. And we want our audience to go to that page to look what other people are doing. The goal with this podcast for me is, number 1, education, getting things out there. Number 2, a little bit of hopefully inspiration and motivation. I don't know about you guys, but I was motivated today hearing Kristin. And then 3rd is a sense of community, that you love listening to our guests because these are folks who get it and are part of this community. So again, we really appreciate you tuning in. Help us get the word out. Kristin, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks so much for having me, Jim.
We'll see everybody next time. Thanks.